Well, the Sharks lost their last 2 games since coming back from the break and are now on a 6-game losing streak. But you could argue that the Sharks have mostly been good over these last 2 games, and you could, and I can, blame their struggles on some awful reffing. But Sharks hockey is back and my body is ready. So let's tear down the last few games. Welcome everybody to episode 18 of the Teal Tear Down Hockey Podcast. This is looking to be more of a short and sweet style podcast. Just want to break down the last 2 games that the Sharks played. So let's just tear into some what happened. So basically, I just want to bring out the goaltending. It's been pretty good over the last couple of games. Georgiev played against Calgary and he was pretty stellar, like nothing remarkable, but he played pretty well. And Vanecek, I would argue, was way, way better. He was out of this world good yesterday. He made some amazing pad saves, especially near the end of the third there when the Sharks were kind of lacking behind. He kind of had to carry the slack there to hold on to that 1-0 lead. We're going to tear down, obviously, more into what happened there. But the positive side is with the deadline coming in 2 weeks, there may be a small chance we might be able to trade one of these guys off for some kind of a future, which I was kind of hoping for just because the Sharks have to probably make some kind of a fire sale and make something of this season because there's no chance of making the playoffs. They're lacking a lot of stuff, so hopefully, that the goaltending is maybe one of those things that the Sharks can maybe ship out, that someone maybe is lacking some depth that they can look at the Sharks and say, hey, maybe we can get something for cheap. And I'm not expecting a first-round pick or something like that, but just some depth pick or just some big body to help the Sharks for the next year, the rest of the year, just to help the Sharks from being bullied around. As we could see, we're going to break down the games that they kind of happened a lot this one. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's talk about the Sharks and the Flames. And the Sharks obviously coming back from break with the Flames as well. Sharks are in Calgary, and the Flames are trying to get to the playoffs right now. They're just on the line right below Vancouver, and this game is one of those games where they're looking down on the Sharks and saying, we need this win. This is an easy team to beat. We should be able to do this and just, give their momentum to get back into the playoffs there. So, the game started off. Celebrini scored a goal pretty early into the game. And this is just like Celebrini and Toffoli, who have great chemistry with each other. Toffoli gets behind the net. He kind of drags one of the Calgary guys behind with him, and he makes a really nice pass as Celebrini sneaks past Kadri. Kadri is supposed to be covering him, and he sneaks in front of the slot, and he's all alone, and Toffoli just finds him. Perfect pass to Celebrini's stick, and Celebrini makes no mistake. This kid, again, every time I feel like I talk about how good he is, he just surprises me every time. And it's awesome to see like Toffoli, the constant, and Celebrini just work really well together, and that was a nice goal there. And obviously that's really the only Sharks real like solid line, them with Eklund. But yeah, that goal was amazing. Right after that, Wallman, I don't know when this happened in the game, but I made a note of this. He uses it, so Huberdeau drops his stick on the ice, and Wallman uses his stick to kind of flip it up and give it to Huberdeau. Very sportsmanlike, and that's something I've never seen in my life. Like, usually hockey players are very, they're very competitive, and they're supposed to hate the other team, especially like the teams, like the teams 20 years ago, there was like a natural hate for each other. So that surprised me when he did that. So good on Wallman, I guess, but I figure a lot of old guys, if they were, like if it was in the, I guess if you're a Canadian fans, if any Canadian team, like if it was a Leafs type of fan, like an old man guy, like he would be pissed at this kind of stuff. He'd be like, my old time hockey. He'd be really angry with the fact that these guys are, being careful about it. In my opinion, I don't really care. It's a new era, and like it was pretty nice of Wallman to do, which is kind of what I want to segue into the next part of this bullcrap call by the reffing. So what happened is Wallman was headlocked by Coleman. Coleman's coming down into the in front of Georgiev, and Wallman gets headlocked by Coleman, falls down, and somehow Wallman gets a penalty for roughing, and I guess Coleman did get the holding call, but Wallman had nothing to do with anything. They were both just battling in front of the net, and Wallman got grabbed by Coleman, and somehow it was offsetting, so it was a 4-on-4, which I thought was kind of just crap. I don't know why that was called against the Sharks. The conspiracy theorists in me just think that they want to make Calgary kind of competitive to make it in the playoffs. Who knows? But really, just it was a really dumb call. And that was not the only one in this game, so we'll get into that a little bit later. So that really egged me on about that, made me really angry about that whole penalty, was that Kadri would score on the power play. So right off the bat, Kadri ends up scoring off of that situation that made me like just aggravated about that crap. So that was not cool. So right after that, Smith and Zetterlund showed some great chemistry there. They're like making some really slick passes from across the ice, and Smith is finally really showing that playmaker skill that he's had. Like, he was touted when we drafted him. Like, he's always been known to do some stuff. Even the preseason, I saw him do some pretty cool, like, getting pucks between the opposing guy's legs to somebody else, and like, he did some really slick stuff like that. But the confidence in this kid compared to what it was at the beginning of the season has been amazing. He'll like make some cross ice passes between all these guys, and I made a perfect tape-to-tape pass to Zetterlund. And Zetterlund would actually make this cool flip to Celebrini from the defensive zone, and Smith had a nice break from that. He didn't score off of that, and you also got to see a little bit of Smith's shot as well. So one thing I really love about Smith is, like, we were sold on this playmaking. I've talked about this a few podcasts before. His playmaking is what we're sold on, but that shot is so lethal, and like, we have this kid. He's only 19 years old, and it's so exciting to see what he's going to be like in the future. So that one I want to kind of point out. So the chemistry between them is nice, and this is something that Smith didn't have the opportunity early in the season as well, because Warsofsky would keep him on the third line and sit him out. He was not really consistently playing with these skilled guys, and for Smith to excel, to get better, he needs to play with skilled guys like Zetterlund. Unfortunately, Wenberg is what they have in the middle, who's not terrible, but anyways, at least it's some kind of an upgrade from what he was doing before. He was playing on the third line with the Cunnins and the Goodrows. He's not the type of guy, I don't think, at least now in his age, he's not going to carry a line yet. And you can't really force that on a 19-year-old kid. You need to have him play with skilled guys, and you're going to be rewarded. And this is what we're seeing now. And his confidence is only growing, and I can't wait to see him in the next few years. So I wanted to bring that up as well. Then a little bit later, Toffoli scores a beautiful backhand goal. Eklund was kind of behind the goal line, a little bit far away from the net. And it's kind of his office, I want to say, but not quite behind the net. But he makes a beautiful backhand pass to Toffoli. Toffoli gets a shot, it goes in midair, and he catches his own rebound, goes in the net, and that would make it 2-1. So the Sharks had a nice little lead for a little bit, but it wouldn't be for very long. And the third, there was another bad call. Dellandrea was holding Backlund. Well, that was the call. And what happened was Dellandrea was falling down, and Backlund actually looked more like he was holding Dellandrea as he fell. And then another Calgary Flame helped push Dellandrea down. So somehow, Dellandrea got the call and Backlund got a call, so it was an offsetting play. But I think I mentioned that with the last play. So it was an offsetting play, actually, for the one that, what was I talking about there? The Coleman call. So Wallman got the penalty. I think Coleman didn't get the penalty for that one. Don't quote me on that one. But for sure, the Dellandrea call was the off. They both offset each other there, which was just bullcrap. So during that 4-on-4, it would be basically Hanlon would have the chance to get the momentum and score the game winner there. So what really just bugged me with that play, just to go back on that, the reffing. I remember Warsofsky did talk with the refs, and the refs explained it to him why that was the case. But I don't think Dellandrea deserved anything of that call. But in that case, it just ended up going by, whatever. But Hanlon would get the game winner based off the momentum after that. And just to jump on that before, there was another call where Eklund just at the end of the second did have like a cross check, and I remember it being a little soft. And the reason I didn't want to make too much of a note of that is because the NHL did kind of mention they're trying to be more harder on these people in these calls. Like, any soft check is going to be called more often, and that is kind of noticeable. But in my opinion, it didn't even look that much of a hard cross check. So whatever, we wite that off. The third period did start with the power play for Calgary, and Eklund was in the box, but nothing came of it. But that's something I wanted to kind of mention a little bit. But yeah, Hanlon's game-winning goal, what happened was Wallman and Thompson were kind of covering the same guy. Wallman lost Hanlon in that mix. Eklund was doing a good job back-checking to the other forward that was down there. But Hanlon all by himself, and then all of a sudden we would see Thompson and Wallman basically miss their guy. So Thompson might have been covering the wrong guy, but either way, that was the game-winning goal, and Sharks would lose this one. And Georgiev actually was pretty good. Like, I can't have any complaints about this dude. He made 34 saves, I want to say. He stopped 2, and then third one. He made 33 saves and had 36 shots, so he was not too bad. The Sharks had 29 shots on net. And yeah, like I would say that Georgiev was not as good as probably Vanecek was this last game, but he was pretty decent. And so the Calgary Flames win this one off a bullcrap call. There's still 2 more games left between each other. There's going to be one on April 7th and then again on April 13th. So on April 7th, Calgary is in San Jose, and April 13th, San Jose is in Calgary. So right now, Calgary leads the series 2-0, which is not a surprise. But these two games are going to be very important to Calgary, so they're going to be playing very hard these next two games. Around this time, I'm predicting that Calgary's going to be in the same kind of spot. They're either going to be just in that playoff line, in or out, and they're going to want to beat the Sharks, who are a basement team, to make sure they etch their chance into the playoffs. So that was that game. I wasn't happy with the reffing at all. That was just a lot of crap for that one. But what can I say about that? There's nothing else to say. Georgiev was stellar in the end. Georgiev was good, and the reffing was crap. That's all I can say about that game. So the next one was last night, the Sharks and the Jets. So this one is the best team in the league versus the worst team in the league. And Hellebuck was in net. I was crossing my fingers and hoping they were going to give him a night off after playing in the Four Nations tournament. But they wouldn't. They threw him right on, I guess, as a confidence thing. I don't know why they would do that. But either way, they played against the Sharks, and he was pretty solid behind the net, mostly because it was mostly a 1-0 game, which we're going to break into. So let's just actually get into it. So the game started. Lowry lays out Thrun in behind the San Jose net. And that's when it was apparent that I'm just like, okay, yeah, this is the size difference we're going to start to see. Winnipeg, you really started to kind of bully in the beginning. There was a lot of hitting, and you could really see the size difference between the Sharks and the Jets. I want to reiterate, just like what I was saying in the trade headline and my last podcast, Sharks need size. And they need guys that can push guys back. And these small dudes, as much as I like Thrun, he's a great player. Like, he's starting to be a pretty decent defenseman, especially playing in that first pairing with Wallman. He got pushed around. He got dummied there. And Lowry is just huge. And he's the captain. He wanted to set the tone, and he did. So, that was just something I wanted to make note of that. But here's something that really stood out to me. Mukmadulin. He hit someone by the boards, which was a surprise. It wasn't like a huge, thundering hit or anything like that. But the fact that he threw someone down from Winnipeg after Winnipeg was trying to really, lay on the hits to try and, make a statement, that stood out to me. So, Mukmadulin's not a thick guy, but he's a big guy, and I'm saying you should use your body more, and he did. And a little bit later, he actually trips Lowry in front of Vanecek. A little kind of a dirty play, but by doing that and defending the net, Lowry kind of fought back a little bit, and Mukmadulin drew a penalty. So this is the kind of stuff I want to see a little bit more of, and I hope it kind of gives Mukmadulin more confidence into doing this kind of stuff. Use your body, be a little bit of a disruptor, and good things can happen, especially when you're on the defensive zone. You could actually, really offset a penalty and get someone really frustrated and do something like what he did, because Lowry's a vet. He's a skilled dude. He knows how not to get himself. He's not like a shithead that's going to drop bad penalties. He's a pretty smart player. So the fact that he do that was good, and that grit made a difference. So it was a 4-on-4 before that, and then it became a 4-on-3 for the Sharks. So that was good. And during that first period, the Sharks did have 3 2-on-1 chances. Winnipeg was really, really driving hard to try and get a goal. But the Sharks would actually try and take advantage of that and end up getting a couple of 2-on-1 chances. But unfortunately, they couldn't finish there. But it was a pretty good chance for the Sharks to at least get the opportunity there. And then eventually in the first, Eklund from Celebrini on the power play. It made it 1-0 San Jose, and it was actually from Smith to Celebrini to Eklund, so that was cool to see. The future, and the Sharks making a really nice play, and they were just on the outside. Nothing crazy about the play so much. They just stayed on the outside. Eklund's up in the point, and Smith to Eklund, Smith to Celebrini. Perfect shot to Eklund, and Eklund's amazing shot. And I really like this, just the fact that Eklund and Smith are going to be playmakers. That Eklund's a playmaker. Smith you're seeing that playmaker skill come out of them, but they both have good shots. That's what really that play showed me, is Eklund can shoot, Smith can shoot, and having that as your tool set is so dangerous, especially on the power play. The goalie and the players don't want to anticipate. Are you going to shoot? Are you going to pass? Because Smith was making some really cool cross-ice passes too that are very sleek, hard and accurate passes. And just to see that goal by Eklund is just a reminder that the Sharks are going to be so good in a few years. It's so cool to see. So just that was awesome to see. And on top of the Smith, jumping on the Smith fact of how skilled he is as well, I noticed how good Celebrini and Smith were. There's a couple of good plays that they were making with each other. You can see that chemistry is just, it's only the first year, and you can see that kind of bubbling around, and it just makes me so excited that the next few years, this is going to build and build and build, and they're going to get that much better. They're so skilled, and just to see how Smith is rounding out again with that confidence, and Celebrini already had it. That's why I don't want to, there's nothing else to bring up. He's had it the whole season. He's only getting better, but the skill between each other is so apparent. It's just so nice to see their chemistry. So I'm just excited to see their future in Teal. So I made another note after that was the size in this game. So in the second, Winnipeg ramped up the hitting. Like if as if they weren't hitting enough in the first, they were really laying it down there after being down 1-0 during this time. And the Sharks, give it to their credit, like the one thing they really did was their sticks were on good places. They were really good at controlling the gaps. Winnipeg had no options of who to pass to because the Sharks were able to put their sticks in the right places to disrupt the Winnipeg's plays and passes. So what's Winnipeg's option to do? Nothing to do but hit. That's all they can do. When they lose the puck, they're going to try and be physical. And that could be a good thing if you're a bigger team, but that can also wear you out and make you accidentally draw penalties as well because of the frustration, because you're going to keep hitting, and then you might cross that line where the ref's going to call you on it. So credit to the Sharks for their sticks, but the Winnipeg Jets were pushing a lot harder, being a lot more physical, and they, just because of the size difference, they were bullying the Sharks a lot more. So to bring that up is right after Vlasic drew a penalty, so that's actually something that led to that. So Winnipeg is kind of getting frustrated, and credit to Vlasic, he was skating back to try and get the puck, and Vlasic ends up getting thrown down to the ice, and he drew that penalty, which is actually pretty nice. And it's good to see Vlasic, when he plays, he comes back, he actually is an effective player. He's not like a world beater like he was when he was back being a younger player, like back 10 years ago when he was like the best defensive defenseman in the world, but he still has that ability, that mental ability to know what to do. And when he plays, like he's been pretty decent this last year, since he's come back from that injury in January earlier last year. He's just been a different guy. He's not, again, slower, older, but he seems to be more effective. When he's on the ice, he's better than when he's not on the ice. So that's something that's it's very good to point out. So he drew that penalty there. Sharks didn't end up doing anything with it, but at least they kill the 2 minutes of the clock trying to keep this going. And near the end of the third, Vanecek made an amazing save on Lowry. He used his pad, and it was the best save of the game, but then wouldn't be the best after that. Up to that point is the best save of the game. And afterwards, obviously, Vanecek would have to hold on for the Sharks' 1-0 lead. Basically, the Sharks kind of flopped. They kind of turtled too much, but near the last 5 minutes, and Winnipeg was just pouring it on. So I don't want to take away the credit from the Sharks because they played such a good defensive game mostly, but this part they kind of turtled a little bit too much. Vanecek was bailing them out for most of it, and on top of that, credit to Winnipeg. They're just a better team, and they're just hammering the Sharks to the point where it actually paid off at the end of the last 25 seconds. And what sucks about this is like the Sharks is not the first time the Sharks gave up a goal near the end of the third to kind of lose the game eventually. This has kind of happened a lot the last month or so, and it's funny because like early in the year, what would happen is the Sharks would score a goal and then give one up right away. And I almost kind of miss those days because at least when the Sharks would give up a goal right after scoring one, it ends the whole like drama. It wouldn't make us wait for the whole game and then break our hearts. And right now it just feels like the Sharks are pretty much waiting to the end of the game, and then we have to suffer and struggle through the tensity of hoping they hold on to the lead and then know they're just going to cough it up, and that's what happened. So it was the heartbreaker at the end. It bounced off Ferrero's leg. It was kind of a weird, and he kind of did block Vanecek there. He just bounced off the boards. Ferrero tried to clear it out, and in the end, it was I forget who scored. I think it was Morrissey who ended up scoring that goal, and it went off in the leg and it went in. Unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about that. 25 seconds left. It was a heartbreaker for sure. And Vanecek did deserve the shutout. In my head, I'm like, please get the shutout, please. He deserves it. Like, did the Sharks even get a shutout this season? Probably from Blackwood, but like, I was really, really rooting for that shutout. Unfortunately, didn't happen, and it goes to overtime. And this is one thing I did want to talk about because the fans were really, really angry about this. Like, it was so much like outcry over this. So Warsofsky started Graf, Ferrero, and Wenberg. And then just to line up of who they went against, it was Scheifele, Ehlers, and Morrissey. So probably the best three players on the Jets versus the Sharks. Honestly, these guys play defensively. So the thing is that the Sharks fans are really complaining about the fact is why wouldn't you play your stars? Here's why I'm going to defend Warsofsky in this situation. You're the worst team in the league. We don't have that much depth. Jets, no matter what, they have that line, which is an incredible three guys, and then you still have other guys like Iafallo and these other players that can still like put the puck in the net. So you got to worry about that. And Perfetti as well, he's been good too. And you got to worry about like those kinds of guys even more, and you don't have the depth to keep up with them. So his gamble was that Wenberg, and in his credit, Wenberg had a really good game, a good 2 games. I didn't really talk about this in the last game against Calgary either, but like having him back is such a big deal. Like he's not a good second line center. We need like a star, obviously a scoring guy, but like as a stopgap compared to Paul Dorelski, he's been pretty decent defensively. And this game, he was very good. And Graf showed a lot of defensive skill as well. So Warsofsky's thought process was, okay, if these guys can at least wear out the first line to make a change, the Winnipeg line to make a change, then we'll bring out our scorers so that way they have an easier time against other guys to score. Because no matter what you have, like the skill difference, no matter what, the Sharks are going to be outnumbered, outmatched. So at least the chance was to get rid of their best talented guys and then bring out your scoring guys to have a better chance. There was an opportunity that you could argue that Graf could have maybe make a line change when they kind of had it past the halfway line, and they're out for way too long. Like, they're out for a minute and a half. But it was once they gave up possession that Winnipeg had the chance. They had no chance for a line change. And they were probably tired. But I'm going to defend Warsofsky on this. That's what I'm with. I think that he made a good gamble. It didn't work out in this situation, but what can you do? It's just you're playing against the best team in the league, and this is just he tried to galaxy brain it, and I don't blame him, because either way, it could have been the other way too. It could have been Celebrini to Foley and Wallman maybe playing in the first line. Maybe they get tired, maybe make a line change, and then you're mad the second line couldn't hold up either. So there's no winning out of this either way, because Winnipeg's just stacked. They're talented. They're confident. They're on now a 10-game win streak after this, and I'm not going to fault Warsofsky for it at all. That's why I want to kind of defend him there. Winnipeg's a deep team. You can't really blame him at all. So that's just how it works out. So the game ended in overtime. The Sharks do get a point in these last two games. And it's nothing of a big deal. It doesn't make the Sharks any higher in the standings. But, the thing is that the small wins of how well they played, they kind of got confident to show they can hold up against a team like this. They didn't get blown out like they did against Dallas a few weeks ago, 8-3. It was a 2-1 loss. So they held on the best they could. Vanecek was fantastic. Honestly, he was lights out good, especially in the end of the third. Winnipeg outshot the Sharks 35-18. It's not the Sharks are destroying Winnipeg in shots like that. Hellebuck had a pretty chill night overall, so I couldn't really blame the Sharks at all for any bad defensive lapses. But anyways, the season series, Jets win 3-0. What's the surprise there? If you look at the improvement, how it was, the Jets beat the Sharks 8-3 on October 18th. The Jets then beat the Sharks 4-3 December 17th. And then 2 months later, the Jets only beat the Sharks 2-1. So if you really want to look at it, the Sharks only improved against the best team in the league. So I would say this is actually not a bad thing. And now the Sharks going into Montreal, maybe a little bit confident. Obviously, they're feeling defeated. They keep losing. But they know they can hold on to games when playing defensively against the best. And now they're going to play a team that's not that good. They're not a playoff team. They're also kind of in the rebuild stage. They might be a little bit ahead of the Sharks, but the Sharks still have a chance to win. I think this, like I was saying this week in the last podcast, of all the teams they are capable of beating, it is the Habs. And this team, this game I'm looking forward to, because I think the Sharks are going to bring it. They're going to have a little more swagger, and I think that's going to really help them out. So I did kind of tear into what the game was going to be like this week, but I just want to go a little bit more into detail before we sign off here. So the Habs, after beating the Sens on Saturday, are now 26-5. They beat the Sens 5-2. Nothing crazy other than Caulfield scored another goal, his 27th. And Patrick Laine is kind of coming back, and he's not having a crazy good season since his injury. That's 13 goals, but they're going to be a confident team. Sapkovsky's kind of gained his confidence after his first couple of seasons. He was kind of he didn't know he was going to be. Now he's kind of showing that he can be probably a stud. This game is going to be very good because of another storyline with the rookies, Racklin Celebrini versus Lane Hudson. That's going to be a fun one to watch as well. We did talk about that before the February 4th game they played. So Montreal does lead series 1-0. They beat the Sharks 4-3. There was that Joel Armia shorthanded goal, if you remember, with 4 minutes left. That kind of broke the Sharks' heart. Again, near the end of the game, the Sharks kind of give up a goal, making it 4-3. But the Sharks are looking to get revenge in Montreal. That'd be such a big win for them to put out the Habs in the Habs home place. Because as you've seen during the Four Nations tournament, that team or those fans can be very brutal. They're ruthless. They're loud. They can really put the team away. The Sharks should score early in this one and really quiet down the crowd. See if that helps. Obviously, it didn't help Team USA when they did it. Actually, it kind of did because they won that game. So maybe it'll help with the Sharks. So we'll have to see what happens there. I'm excited to tear into it. I'll be back on Saturday to tear into that game and then talk about the upcoming games for the next week. And that is it for me today. I want to thank you for listening, for wherever you are and whatever you're listening from. I just appreciate you listening with me today. And you can also check me on Instagram. Sometimes I post some random things about the games at Teal Teardown Hockey. I'm also on X at Teal Teardown HKY. If you like the show, leave a comment. It helps with the algorithm. And subscribe, because I'm going to keep on dishing out the Sharks as long as you're willing to hear me. So thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you again next time.